that it says that we are live. So I am super
Okay.
excited, guys. I am coming back at you today. We have this like super duper series of our expert guests for the Luxury Short-Term Rental Summit that is coming up in July. And so what I'm doing is I'm interviewing each of our expert speakers 10-minute slots throughout the next few weeks or so, because guess what? When they share their content, they're not going to have time to give us all of the story behind who they are, what they do. And so this is your chance to get to know them a little bit. Okay. So remember, this is 60 experts delivering content each for 60 seconds. No fluff. No long intros, none of that jazz. It is going to be actionable, juicy, top tier information because I want you to move the needle. For those of you who said you're going to start in January, well, what are you waiting for? Let's move the needle. And so I have with me none other than the infamous Micah artist from Live, Let, Thrive podcast, always giving us some great information. I've been listening to your podcast, Micah, and it's such an honor to have you here today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people?
Thank you for having me on, Rachel. I loved your episode on Live, Let, Thrive. Yeah, I am a podcast host of Live, Let, Thrive. I've been in the short-term rental business for about 5 years. Me and my wife got started renting out a condo, which quickly got shut down due to regulations that I didn't do my research and due diligence. And that's how we got into the space. And from there, we have grown into a sustainable short-term rental business. We operate 13 primary units, and then we operate like 400 timeshares that we rent out to friends, family, and people on Airbnb.
Wow, that is pretty awesome. So that's pretty unique in it and of itself, the timeshare piece of it. That is super cool. But I love the way you said sustainable, because what we're hearing is a lot of STR operators are finding that there may be some saturation, there may be some oversaturation in some areas. I often state that it's not that there's saturation in all the areas. Sometimes it's demand, right? So there's definitely a demand, but when prices start to go lower and lower and lower, that's when we start to detect from a economical, the definition of saturation is that lowering the price while increasing the number of units. So I know that sustainability is really important to you and it's near and dear to you. And that's what you, without spilling the tea, that's what you shared on your segment of the STR Summit. So I'm really excited about that. Could you talk a little bit about what you're facing in the different markets? Because you're in Texas, right?
I have units in Texas and I have units next door in Arkansas. And like you were saying, like Houston's considered oversaturated, right? There's no regulations. So that creates just an influx of new hosts. But the problem is there's a lack of education when you come into the space. So people, they don't get booked. So people think they want every night booked. And then what you're doing is you're bringing in a different crowd. So you're bringing in the crowd that you probably don't want if you just want every night book and you're just racing to the bottom. You're lowering and lowering your prices, which now starts to mess with the entire market. So with being sustainable, one thing I tell people is have a diversified portfolio, especially right now in this market. You have inflation going on, you have interest rates rising, pushing rents up. So if you're in the arbitrage space, you might want to learn how to buy property and buy it efficiently. So now you can able to, those interest rates, it might hit you for one time, but if it goes back down, you can refinance out of it and you're not paying an inflated rent cost. So it's just a matter of being diversified in your portfolio. Even hopping into management's a great thing to do right now, seeing that so many investors are now starting to hop into the short-term rental space because they see the increased cash flow, but they're not really knowledgeable on how short-term rentals work and the operations. And if you have that experience, you can make a lot of money and help a lot of people in this time. So that's a diversification and sustainability, just being diversified in your portfolio, in my opinion.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I love that you're speaking about all three strategies, really, anything from ownership to arbitrage to management or co-hosting, right? So I think that's absolutely amazing to understand, because initially when I started, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that arbitrage was for me. I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't do that. But whenever you're presenting a deal, if you're an entrepreneur, you just need to know how to manage that deal, and it can be a good deal. If a landlord comes to me right now with a house that fits my guest avatar, and say, you know what, I'm tired of renting it out long term. Would you take it? You better believe I'm going to figure out arbitrage. And that's what we did last July. We picked up 3 arbitrage units because
Congrats.
thank you. Yeah. You have to know how to pivot. It doesn't matter what the economy is looking like. And that's a true investor and a true entrepreneur, just figuring out how to still solve people's problems and making it work, right? When you say that problem solving is
the tools on the tool belt. That's what it comes down to, is what tools do you have on the tool belt? And just knowing and just the education piece behind arbitraging, behind owning, and behind management. That's where we really are. And we really have to focus on the education piece. See, like how you said you were able to pivot into arbitraging. I was arbitraging. And then I'm like, once I did my first burr, I'm like, okay, I've been doing it wrong. So it's about that education. And once you have the education, executing on it. Once you execute on it, it becomes easier. And that fear starts to come out of you. You know, you start executing, create systems. And yeah, I love this industry. It's really growing and it's really pushed my family to have freedom. You know, I left my job in November and I can be at home with my baby girl. Thank you.
Oh
I can be at home with my new baby girl, take my son to school, pick him up, and it's provided so much for my family. So I love the industry.
Oh, I love it. And so when you say education, something that I noticed, Micah, is that in this space, a lot of us, we start off with, YouTube University. There's nothing wrong with getting the free information out there. You give it a try. And I recommend people, you give it a try before you get a coach. So I got my first property. And then once I launched, I realized, okay, I want to do more of these. I made a lot of mistakes, but it still turned out to be something that I really vied with. But how do I do it more efficiently? How do I do it better so that it's not just one that's going to take me 6 months? Maybe I can do 2 or 3 in 6 months. So I ended up getting a coach. So what do you think about, education? What do you think about coaching? Because I know with the segment of Airbnb being hot, every feed, I see a brand new coach that's popping up.
I'm happy you brought that up. It's almost like you've been watching my Instagram. So you did it the right way. I tell people, if you're going to get a coach, I would do it exactly how you did it, because I did the same way. I got a coach after I executed, because what you sometimes run into, people that will hire a coach, but then they won't execute because it's just so much. They're just there to catch the knowledge and they're not executing. And what happens is, if you execute the plan first and then you make the mistakes, you'll know what to look for in a coach. Now, like you said, hey, now I know to look for this. I know to look for, hey, okay, I'm struggling on my setups. This coach, do you know how to create a streamlined system on my setups? Do you know how to create a system where my cleaners are on time every time, how to track cleaners? You'll know the problems you're facing in your business. And then with a coach, it's just going to 10X what you do. So I'm happy you said that. Execute first, then find a coach.
Awesome. And you're right. And getting that coach for that pain point that you're facing, because my first coach, she was not an STR. She was actually a real estate coach, and she had done a ton of acquisitions. And that's what I was looking at, how to quickly acquire more real estate, maybe not using my own money all the time, maybe creative financing, structuring deals. And her specialization is not mobile homes, storage facilities. And I remember at one point, I was doing my luxury thing, and she's always touting me, and she understands how to structure deals, but beyond that, that's not her cup of tea. So at one point I said, you know what, I want to do storage facilities. Can I do, I want to join she goes, no, you're luxury short-term rental girl. I said, no, I want to do storage. I said, why are you holding out on me? She goes, focus. If you don't learn to focus, you won't last long in this business.
That is what my mentor,
mic drop. That part.
That is what my mentor told me. That is what he told me. See, and my mentor isn't in the short-term rental space either. He's in the real estate space just like you, but he's in the single family home space. So my goal was, I want more single family properties, but I want to be able to acquire them creatively, using the BRRRR strategy. So I hired him, and what he did is just 10X what I do. I can use him for the BRRRR part. I know the short-term rental part, so I can focus on that. But now I know how the strategy to the BRRRR. I love that. Yeah, you gotta stay focused. If you want to hop on the new shiny thing every time, you're not gonna get anywhere. So you have to focus. Just the other day, and I'm gonna show you a story about this. Just the other day, I was on Instagram and I seen One of my friends, he had just got this big multifamily. He's getting ready to work on it, put new tenants in, and I'm like, oh, I want to do multifamily. Then it stuck in my head. No, you're doing single family homes. You're working on the burr. You got to focus. And I'm happy you got to niche down, and you have got to have a goal. If you have that goal, that's the biggest thing that'll keep you focused.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. So I'm not the only one with the shiny object. And then I hear her voice in my background. I was like, focus. Yep. Yeah. So I love it. So guys, there you have it. I just wanted to bring in the amazing Micah artist to you today. Please, please, please tap into the STR Summit, the Luxury STR Summit, where we are going to be sharing 60 experts sharing 60 seconds of insights each, a total of 60 minutes. Okay. The investment, well, you know what? On Monday, the tickets go on sale. It's going to be a whopping $27 for early bird. Come on. I think you can handle that. If you can't, just holler at me in the back channel. I got you covered. But definitely tap in. The link should be in the caption above this video here. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you. Thanks again, Micah. I appreciate your time with us today.